have some New Year's resolution or some sort of goal that you want to meet. And one of those may be to learn the stock market. So I'm just going to show you a little bit of how I learned. So these are the big things that have been in the media. One is ICE, and the other is their technology group. And if you know about them, you know what they do. So I decided that I wanted to know a little bit more about finance. So I have what I call buckets. And instead of lining out a particular lesson about what I should learn today, I just pull from my buckets and I learn from them. And mostly this has to do with stuff I've already learned and maybe I forgot. So I come back to it and I try to elevate what I know. So I did a basic 3-statement finance class. Then I went and I took a digital class on bookkeeping, which you guys saw whenever I was looking over Notion versus Obsidian note taking. That is an example of what I was learning, and it helped me understand things like depreciation and all that stuff. Really, it's the accountant that makes those decisions, and then of course you have a lawyer to make sure those things are lawful decisions, right? So anyway, when it comes to stocks, it's a little bit different. I'm not going to be a shareholder, so people look at stocks, we're going to look at a balance sheet differently than someone who's going to be validating a company. Sometimes you may validate a company to see how profitable they are. You know, what kind of margins are these people running at? So it kind of depends on how you look at life. This is important to me because number one, it's the media. This is what they're pushing. And also, this is how they're going to shape their avatar for the gameplay that they're putting in the media. And it's mostly domestic, even though it goes international. So I just want to kind of know who are these people and how are they structured. I did not know that these particular contractors, ICE, had actual publicly traded companies. I thought these were individual, privately owned companies. But so happen, anybody can be a contractor. You can wash buses and be a contractor. These seem to be a little bit more advanced than just that because they're going in and then creating, other companies based on that. But because this is a gameplay, there's players, there's winners, there's losers. There's more people who may be able to collect more technology than the other one. There's antitrust laws, et cetera, et cetera. Why would pretty much a company that has the access it needs to do what it needs to do need to have publicly traded companies? I don't understand. I don't understand that. Why would you need to, have this? But I guess it would make sense research wise. It would make sense because the things, everything that deals with obtaining people in, detention centers or prisons or stuff like that, you can put under an umbrella and you can pretty much have access to that. But again, you could just do that generally without having private companies. But for some reason, they choose to have private companies, which is beyond me. But anyway, so it has an index, right? So you have an index, you have a research facility, you optimize whatever you're able to have. I think there's a game now that's like a zombie, and then there's a detention center. It kind of shows you kind of what contracting kind of looks like, and what people can do if they do that, like, hey, say it's the virus, you elevating people, you're seeing if people is going to, or if they're really who they are, or how the disease progressed, access to data, access to information, how you can use that in order to do experiments. That's a really good game to understand these sort of concepts and what you can do, right? And especially in certain circumstances where your domestic situation is going to a state, like a red alert or a particular state of alertness, you can initiate certain acts and certain things to go with it. But again, I don't know why you need to do it privately. You can do it publicly. I don't understand that. But anyway, going into this has just saying, hey, you want to make money off the next big vaccination or the next big system, data system or whatever, and you want to validate if it's going to be actually profitable or if it's just a lot of hype, right? So one of the things you can do is you're looking at the balance sheet. This is one of the best balance sheets I've ever seen before. It's just somebody actually making this. If you look at something like, what's that? Sweet Greens. Oh my God, their last like financial statements, their quarterly report, it was all over the place. But this is pretty clean. Like you actually have your line items here. You know, Sweet Greens, I will say, does not have an actual income, operating income. They do. So this is the actual filings, and then they have the what is this quarterly report? Yeah. They actually have the line items. Maybe I need to press on it so you guys can see. No. This is one, but then they actually have one that almost is set up like a this is annually. Let's see, there's one set up actually like a whatchamacallit, an Excel sheet. So yeah, I don't see that, but you know, maybe one day you'll see me on here breaking down some numbers. But anyway, so they have that, and then you can also look to see, like if you're looking at stocks, you see that they've been awarded, so that's a PR release. So maybe some people actually got on this and started investing. This is January the 13th, so this is probably less than a month. And if you actually looked at this, you could see that they've actually made some pretty nice head in the market itself. Ooh, did I delete that? No, I didn't. I did delete it. I had like a little chart with their stuff on it. Anyway, but let's look into also technologies. What's the new technologies that's coming out, et cetera, et cetera. One of the things that I'm interested in as far as breaking down these technologies and breaking down the ecosystem is to look at difference between the BlackRock and Blackstone, how they interact, how they invest, and what their goals are. These are all interconnected. I know people like index funds, and some of the people who do index funds are politically on the FL side, and they don't quite understand that those things all are connected together. So if you want to actively make a decision on either side and you want to actually understand what's going on, you always have to look at your potential. It's never going to be what you're seeing right now, it's what you're going to be seeing 5 and 10 years. And for me personally, when I'm looking at this stuff, what people say and what they actually do is not something I will look at the press release for. I will look at press releases for interest, for something gained, something that's going to be either negative or positive, or like future wise, you're looking at the results of things that they already have completed and done. And if you want to look at the results of things that have already completed and done, you look historically, right? You look at things historically to see how they have operated. And then perhaps reference some media. But most of the media now is always going to be in favor. Right side, left side. Left side is very passive. I don't see them really that active in business companies for PR releases. If it is, it's getting drowned out. The more active side is usually reinvestment into weapons for whatever reason, and anything to do with data in that arena. So that tells you sort of what they're focused on. And you would think that these things are common sense. But when I was in college, I graduated in May. I finished my degree. Before I finished my grad, last course I took was ecology. And I was just telling them about, ecology and about how it's connected to business and how companies are run. And they just looked at me like I had 3 heads. Well, that's not what we're focused on. But yeah, those things are complex, but it's not really understand. Our focus is this, because they believe academically that there are the separation of these two groups, or one is concentrated on business and one is concentrated on domestic, like relations, interrelations are done on purpose. And it's done purposely through the academia system. Most men go to political science. Most women gets pushed into liberal science. So you have politics, you have liberal science. And it's hard to graduate political science if you don't have an analytical mind. And you start putting things together holistically. That's not something you do. They mostly just focus on models and things like that. And politics, because it's a winning things. So if you look at mythology, if you're coming from a historical background, or maybe you like it, people joke about the Roman Empire. I think about the Roman Empire all the time. Well, think about Mars and Venus being split. You're not going to obtain anything unless you bring those things together. And remember, Venus has both attributes of war, except she doesn't she doesn't start a war and then lounge around. It's like she doesn't want to be seen like that all the time because she wants the dudes to do the work. So she basically wipes the board and restarts again. Okay? Because the moment you come back in, then you got to do all the work. You don't want to do that because that's not how your vibration. Then the Venus turns into a continuous Mercury. Or not Mercury. I'm looking at Mercury right now. A continuous Mars. Continuous fighting, right? So you win fights, you lose the war, lose your resources, and lose your trust. You have the interconnected of the feminine, which is to court, to socialize, share gifts, do all this. And then you have the war path, which is to obtain the resources and to use it, right? Actionary, to obtain the resource, to use it. If you look at the past, even this particular liberal states, this is always done in the name of a woman, okay? Old dude who they equipped this to didn't get where he is today. Historically, he had to get approval from somebody. So the same thing for BC, which is now in the UK, in the name of who, right? Because there's a balance there. I know people who are in, stock market, stocks, just trying to get some money. They have no idea what I'm talking about. But unfortunately, you are dealing with a system that has these attributes. Its attributes are connected together. Look at the old currency. And when I mean old currency, I mean the actual development of this particular state itself. And there's a reason why you use it, because it works. There's something about archetypes, superheroes, that connects with the people in their consciousness. They like to be seen as heroes here in the US. They do. They like to see the other person on the opposite side that they fought the first war with as the enemy. We are the new people, blah, blah, blah. The stuff that they were doing that was bad, they never put it in films or movies, and they always portrayed themselves as the heroes. When it comes to superheroes, I'm almost always tied to where, right? There's winners and losers, there's villains, there's heroes, etc., etc. There's always a story to tell. And right now you're seeing the story. So if you are in the arts and you're moving over to finance, do connect them together. But if you get a job where you're doing this, you're just going to have to use their standard model, okay? The storyline is going to be for you. Maybe you write a book. Alrighty, so if you guys have any questions, let me know. Before I leave, I'm going to show you, for the guys and women and guys who are wanting to know how to use perhaps coding to speed up things. There's so many things that you can do. One of the things that you can do is it actually has the SEC actually has a system, right? A data gathering, analysis, and revival system. And you can connect this to Google Colabs. And basically, even though I would not use this myself, I'm sorry, there's no way. I like doing it by hand. I like doing it on Excel. I need to see the columns. I need to see the names. I don't really like doing it like this. But some people may want to try to maybe develop an app. You would need to use VS Code for that, etc. But if you want something like this and just practice, you can. So basically, you can revive the same information. So you would connect to the U.S. Security Exchange and Commission, and then you would put in the name of the business, and then you could write some code to then extract some line items. Net income, depreciation, capital expenditures, changes in working capital, and a net debt issued. Not net debt issue, but net debt. All this stuff is assured. All this stuff is here, and you're able to actually calculate some free cash flow to equity, right? So it will calculate this. So we'll take in the net income, depreciation, amortization, all that good stuff, And then you can actually get this, which is the number, and you can actually put it into, like, if you wanted to do, you can export it to an Excel file and then do your charts there, like your dashboard, or you can actually use the program here to do the dashboard. It's more attractive to use Power BI, Excel, even Google Sheets than to use it here. This is more for science. Any regular schmegler finance institution is going to want to see a nicely put together chart, and most of those charts are for non-technical people, and even if they are technical, they probably don't want to see more of a scientific kind of chart. Okay, it is very outdated looking, I will say that. But anyway, I just wanted to show you that it's possible if you wanted to deal with that. This is not something I like to do. I like to actually use Excel or Wordsheet or something, or not Wordsheet, but Excel, Google Sheets, or some things you can use Power BI for, and then that's about it. There's Tableau, but I don't see a lot of people using Tableau anymore. So that's pretty much it. If you guys have any questions, let me know. Happy New Year's. Bye.